Shalom and welcome, students of Hebrew. As we have been doing, we're going through the book of John, which in Hebrew is called Yehuchanan, or in the modern Hebrew, Yochanan. And we are in chapter 2, verses 10 to 13. So let us now begin. And so we begin by giving you the chart of the valve markings, which are called Nakud, and also these very useful resources. And we do pray you use them. So let us begin. And we begin with the Yod, which is the 10th letter of the alphabet, meaning we're in the verse 10. And we go through the letters. Yod, Aleph, Mem, Resh, Aleph, Lamed, Yod, Vav, Kaf, Lamed, Aleph, Yod, Shin, Yod, Tav, Nun Sofit, meaning Nun at the end of the word, Bayet, which is a bet, right, because of the dot there, Resh, Aleph, Shin, Vav, Nun, Hey. And just to highlight a few things, the Aleph being in white, it is not pronounced. Here it takes on the vowel sound. And then we also have the Aleph here as being silent. And this is a vav, but it's not pronounced. We only say the vowel sound, which in most cases is the case, but there are some where we actually say vogue. But apart from that, we've also got the vowel marks. This is a cholam, this is a segol, this is a zere, kamatz, kamatz, chirik, chirik, zere, kamatz, chirik, and this vowel mark is cholam, and that's a kamatz. Whereas this is not a vowel mark. This just tells us it's a shin rather than, if it was on this side, a sin. So let us read now. Yomer, and he said. Now remembering that we're talking about this banquet, this wedding banquet in Cana, which we remember Yeshua turned water into wine from the previous lesson. So when it says, and he said, we're talking about the rabbi, the one in charge of the festival, in charge of the wedding. Elev, unto him, meaning the groom. Kol ish, means every man. Yiten, that's an incomplete form, so he shall give. Barishona, in the first, can be in the first, but also can be in the beginning, right? So the translation is the head of the banquet said to him, everyone gives firstly. And then I've given you the root in, the tan is a kol verb to give, to permit. And then we've got kol, or kol, but it's a prep, meaning all, every, each, any, everything. In this case, the kamatz rule applies, which is in an unaccented closed syllable, usually the first, the A sound becomes a short O sound. What do I mean by closed? Because there's no vowel after the lamed. So that makes it a closed syllable. So it is kol rather than kal. Right, so now we can read it. And it is Yomer Elev Kol Ish Yiten Barishona. And of course the translation. And he said to him, every man he shall give in the first, or firstly. And now we come to part B. So we have an Aleph, a tav, a hey, a yod, a nun sofit, meaning a nun at the end of a word, which is different than the normal nun. Then we have a hey, tet, vav, vayet. Vav, aleph, chet, resh, yod, shin, tav, vav, tav, mem sofit, lamed, resh, vav, yod, hey, yod, tav, nun sofit. So we read it, et grammar marker, hayayin, the wine. ha-tov, the good, ve'acharei, and after. She-to-tam, them drinking, remembering that the means them at the end, right? And the rest, if we look down here, shatot is a verb to drink or to zip, and shata is a kol verb to drink, to swallow. So we can just see different forms there. And then we have lir, so lir vaya, lir vaya, to overload. If we look down here, rava is a verb to quench one's thirst, to drink to the full. And then I've also given you revaya, which is a feminine noun meaning saturation, abundance, fill. But this being like a verb to overload, to drink to the full. So to the full, you could say, or to overload. Yiten, he will give. Remembering, no pronoun, we can assume it's he. It could be it, but in this case, he, right? So let's look at the translation. Everyone gives firstly the good wine, and after they have drunk to overflowing, he gives. So there's like a comma there. And so we can read that now. Et hayayin ha-tov ve'acharei she-totam lir vaya yiten. Grammar mark of the wine, the good, and after them drinking to overload, he will give. So now we come to part C, and we have a lamed, hey, mem safit, mem at the end of a word, aleph, tav, hey, gimel, resh, vav, ayin, vav, aleph, tav, hey, zade, fe, nun, tav, hey, tet, vav, vayet, ayin, dalet, ayin, tav, hey. So we read it. La-hem, meaning to them. So the hem is them. Et, grammar marker, ha-ga-ru-a, the inferior. If we look down here, garua as an adjective means bad, inferior, poor quality, deplorable. Ve'ata, and you, zafanta, you concealed. So zafan is a kol verb to conceal, to hide. So you concealed. Ha-tov, meaning the good. Ad, meaning until. Ata, meaning now. So he gives to them the poor quality, but you have hidden the good wine until now. So, of course, normally you give the good wine first, and when they're a bit drunk, of course, then you give the bad wine. But they did it the opposite because, of course, the wine that Yeshua made was the best. So also we've got ad here as a prep, as far as until, up to, or till. So now let us read that. Lahem et ha-garua ve'ata zafanta ha-tov ad ata. To them, grammar mark of the inferior, and you concealed the good until now. So now we turn to 11. It's represented with a yod and an aleph. Yod is 10, aleph is 1. So we're in 11. And then we have Zion, aleph, tav, resh, aleph, shin, yod, tav, hey, aleph, tav, vav, tav, aleph, shin, resh, ayin, sin this time because of the dot there, hey, yod, hey, vav, shin, ayin. So I'm just going a little bit quicker to really test your abilities. So we read it. Zot, meaning this, and I've added is. Reshit, meaning the beginning of. Ha'otot, meaning the signs. And if we look reshit as an adjective, it can mean first, firstly, chiefly, but as a feminine noun, it can also mean beginning, origin, outset. So we could use it as the beginning as well of the signs. Asher, that, asa, he did, Yahushua, or Yahusha. This is the beginning of signs that Yeshua did. And I've given you asar as well, kol verb, to do, to make, to produce, and ot is a masculine noun, sign, omen, token, mark, seal. And so now it is time to read this. Zot, reshit, ha'otot, asher, asa, Yahushua. This is the beginning of the signs that he did, Yahusha. And so we come to part B, and we have a bait, because it's a dot in there, so it's a shorter sound, so it's bait. Kuf, nun, hey, aleph, shin, resh, beit, aleph, resh, zade, so fit. Zade at the end of a word. Again, it's different than the normal zade. Hey, gimel, lamed, yod, lamed. Vav, shin, mem, so fit. Gimel, lamed, hey. So we read it. Be, kana. Be, meaning in, kana. Translated as Canaan, but we're going to use its proper name, which is Kana. Asher, which, and I've added is, which is Be'eretz, in the land, and then I've added of, Ha-Galil, the Galil, Sham, and there, Gila, he revealed. What we notice with the Hebrew is they often don't include of or is, so we add that just to make it flow a bit better. Now the translation is Yeshua did in Cana, which is in the land of Galilee, and there he manifested. And I've given you Gilah, which is a pure verb to reveal, to discover, to expose. And Gula is a verb to be revealed, to be discovered. So I'm just giving you some variations of the word, Gilah. So now let us read that. Be-kana, asher, be'eretz, ha-galil, ve-sham, Gilah. And the translator, in Cana, which is in the land of the Galil, and there he revealed. So now we turn to the next one, which is 11c. And we have an aleph, a tav, a kaf, a vayet, there's no dot, vav, dalet, vav, vav, yod, aleph, mem, yod, nun, vav, vayet, no dot, vav, tav, lamed, mem, yod, dalet, yod, vav. Now let's read it. Et, grammar marker, kevodo, his esteem. Again, the vav at the end, the o sound is his. And we know that kevod is a masculine noun for honor, respect, esteem, dignity, glory, or his esteem, right? Vaya'aminu, and they believed. So how do we get they firstly? It's the u at the end. And then, of course, we've got amin, which is the root. It means faithful, trustworthy, true, reliable. And he'emin is a verb to believe, to trust. And, of course, the vav is and, right? And they believed. It's the prefix, the to prefixes here, the Vav and the Yod, tell us it's a complete form, and they believed. Vo, meaning in him. Tal me Dave, his disciples. The Vav is his. Often you find the pronouns are at the end. So he manifested his glory and his disciples believed in him. So we can read that one. Et kevodo vayaminu. Vo Talmidayev. Grammar marker his esteem, and they believed in him, his disciples. That's who believed. And so we come to 12a, and it's a Yod and a Vayet. A Yod is 10, Vayet is 2. Then we have Vav, Yod, He, Yod, Aleph, Chet, Resh, Yod, Kaf, Nun, Sofit, Vav, Yod, Resh, Dalet, Aleph, Lamed, Kaf, Fe, Resh, Nun, Chet, Vav, Mem, Sofit. This Vav is not said as a Vav, it's just said as the vowel mark, which is U. So we read it. Vehi, and it was, mostly translated as came to pass, but it literally is, and it was. Acharei ken, which is literally after so, translated generally as afterwards. Vayered. Vayered. And he went down. If we looked in it, Yerad is a cold verb to descend, to go down, to decrease. El to Kefa. Kefa literally means village. Nachum. So we have Nachum. And it's translated as Capernaum, but it's not a singular word. It's actually two words. The village of Nachum. If we look down here, Kefar is a masculine noun meaning a rural village. First name of many Yisrael places. Nahum was a minor prophet of the Tanakh. Therefore, Capernaum was the village of the Navi, the prophet Nahum. And the translation, and it came to pass after this that he went down to Capernaum. So, now we can read that. And it is, Vehi acharei came, vayered el kefar Nachum. And it was after so, he went down to Kefar Nachum. And now we come to 12b, and we have a Hey, Vav, Aleph. Vav, Aleph, Mem, Vav. Vav, Aleph, Chet, Yod, Vav. Vav, Tav, Lamed, Mem, Yod, Daled, Yod, Vav. Vav, Lamed, Aleph, Aleph, Resh, Kaf, Vav. Now we read it. Who, which means he. Ve'imo, and his, that's the O at the end, mother. So how do we get im? It comes from em, which is a feminine noun for mother. And then we have ve'echayv, and his, that's the vav at the end, brothers, which comes from ach, masculine noun for brother, countryman, close friend. But we can also say achi is also like brother. The Talmidayev, and his disciples, again the vav is his, velo, and not, arku. So what's arku? They prolonged. So if we look at arak, it's a cold verb to last a long time, to drag out, to take time. Or arak, as negative means long or prolonged. So in other words, and they prolonged, right, meaning to make long. And it's often translated and stayed not, right? And not they stayed, because that helps us understand it. They prolonged, so that English translation I've also given you down here, which is an alternative translation, vayeshvu. The alternative is a verb for and they stayed or dwelt or sat, right? Because yeshav is the root word to stay. So I've given you that one from the other version just to show a different word that can be used there. And of course the translation is Tukaponium, with his mother, his brothers, and his disciples, but they stayed not. And we read it. Hu, ve'imo, ve'echayiv, ve'talmidayiv, ve'lo arku. Now that could also use the kamatz rule, which is arku. But we'll take it as arku. He and his mother and his brothers and his disciples, and not they prolonged their time there, in other words. And part C is a shin, mem sofit, yod, mem sofit, resh, bet, yod, mem sofit. Sham meaning there. Yamim meaning days. Rabim, many. They did not stay there many days, and I've just given you Rav as an adjective, means much, great, vast, numerous. So many days. And so we read it. Sham, Yamim, Rabim. Their days many. And then we have 13a, represented with Yod 10, Gimel 3. And we have Vav, Yod, Kuf, Resh, Veit, Vav. Yod, Mem, Yod, Chet, Gimel, Hey, Pei, because of the dot, Samek, Chet, Aleph, Shin, Resh, Lamed, Yod, Hey, Vav, Dalet, Yod, Mem, Safit. Va, Yik, Re, Vu. Also, when there's two shavas, the second one has a short E sound behind it. So it is va'yik revu. That's why we've got the E there, right? And they drew near. So how do we get that? It comes from karav, which is a kol verb to approach, to draw near, to come close. Now, I've also given you karev, which is a piel verb to bring closer, to hasten, to draw nearer. And again, this almost looks the same, but if we look, the vowel mark's different. Karev, masculine noun, and it means interior, innards. So it's using two segols. So it's a noun. And then I've given you karav, which again is a different word altogether. Same letters. It's a masculine noun and it means battle, combat, struggle, fight. If we think about it, it's a battle because the two enemies draw near to each other. So we can sort of see why they use it as a root even for fighting, right? So, and they drew near, Yemei, the days of, and that's a construct form. And I also gave you that the second Shavah rule applies there. And then it is Chag, which means the feast, and I've added of, Ha-Pesach, the feast of Pesach, Passover. Asher, which, and I've added is, La Yehudim, for the Yehudim. The days of the feast of Passover, which is of the Yehudim, drew near. And I've also given you Yamin, which means days. From Yom, right? And Yom is a masculine noun meaning day. Now that is the normal form, but Yeme is a construct form. And with the ending like that, it tells us it's the days of. Right, so now we're going to read that. And we get Vayik Revu Yemei Chag HaPesach Ashir La Yahudim. And they drew near the days of the feast of Pesach, which is for the Yehudim. And so we now come to 13b, which is Avav Yod and Ayin Lamed. Yod He Vav Shin. Ayin, Yod Resh Vav Shin Lamed, Yod Mem He. And so we read it. Va Ya Al. And he went up. And I thought that was interesting because we've also got a word here, Yi'el, which looks very similar. The difference is that yod is actually a prefix, whereas this one's not. So Yi'el is a piel verb to make efficient, to make haste. So some might translate as, and he made haste, but that's not the case. He went up. That is the correct translation there. Yahushua, or Yahusha, that's who. Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim, to Yerushalayim, to Jerusalem. Right, now if we look at any of the hey at the end, the hey suffix is a directional marker, meaning to. The vav and the yod prefix changes the tense to went. And that's what I'm talking about here, where you got a vav and a yod prefix. And it means it's a completed action. And he went up, not he shall go up, right? He went up. Right, so now we can read that. And it is Va-ya-al, Yahushua, Yerushalayim. And he went up, Yahusha, to Yerushalayim. And so now we finally come to our revision to see just how we are going along with our understanding and our ability to translate. So we will do it word by word. First we begin with Yod. It's the 10th letter of the alphabet. We're in verse 10. Yomer, and he said, Elev, unto him, Kol, every, it could be every or all, ish, man, so every man, Yitten, he shall give, Barishonah, in the first or in the beginning. So, and he said to him, that's the rabbi said to the groom, every man he shall give in the first. Translate often firstly. Et grammar marker, hayayin the wine, hatov the good, ve'achare and after, shetotam them drinking, lir vaya to overflow, yiten he shall give. Grammar mark of the wine, the good, and after them drinking to overload, he will give. Lahem, to them, et grammar marker, ha garua, the inferior. Ve'ata, and you, the fanta, you concealed, ha tov, the good, ad until ata, now. To them and the inferior, and you concealed the good until now. So basically he's saying so that after they have drunk the good, he will give to them the inferior, and you concealed the good until now. That's what it's saying. Now we come to verse 11, and we see it's represented with a Yod 10, Aleph 1. Zot, this, Reshit, which you could say is the beginning, Ha'otot of the signs, and it's a plural form, assure that Asa he did Yahushua. This is the beginning of the signs that he did Yahushua. Be-kana, in Kana, Asher, that is Be'eretz, in the land of Ha-Galil, the Galilee. The Sham, and there, Gila, he revealed, or he manifested, in Cana, which is in the land of the Galil, and there he revealed. Grammar marker. Et is a grammar marker, right? Kevodo, which is his esteem, his glory. Vayaminu, and they believed, completed form. Vo in him, Talmidayev, his disciples. Grammar marker, his esteem, and they believed in him, his disciples. And now we come to 12, which is Yod Vayet. Yod 10, Vayet 2. Vehi, and it was, Acharei Ken, after so, translated afterwards, Vayered, and he went down. El to Kephar, the village, Nahum, of Nahum, the prophet, of course. And it was after so, he went down to Kephar Nahum, translated as Capernaum. Who, which is he, Ve'imo, and his mother, Ve'echayev, and his brothers, Ve'talmidayev, and his disciples, Velo, and not, Arku. They prolonged, which is like saying made long, right? Not they made long. He and his mother and his brothers and his disciples, and not they prolonged or made long. Sham there, Yamim days, Rabim many. Their days many. So in other words, they didn't prolong their days there. That's basically what it's saying. Right, and then we have Yod 10, Gimel 3, so in 13. Vayikrevu, and they drew near. Yemei, the days of. Chag, the feast. Ha-Pesach, of Passover. Asher, that is, you could say, La Yehudim, for the Yehudim. And they drew near the days of the feast of Pesach, which is for the Yehudim. Vaya'al, and he went up. And then who went up? Yahushua. Yerushalayim, to Yerushalayim, which is to Jerusalem. And he went up, Yahushua, to Yerushalayim. And that brings us to our valve marks again. So we're going to choose the bottom line and look at that first. Here we have a valve, but often it's never said the valve there. It's only said as the oo sound. And it's called shuruk. That gives you the idea of the sound, the oo sound, shu. And then we have the diagonal one coming under the, like here we've got the kuf with the diagonal, ku. So it's called ku butz. So again, it sounds a little bit longer, ku, rather than shu. And then we have kataf segal, that has a shava, which is the syllable break, followed by segal, which is a short e. Then we have chirek, which is the I sound, kataf patak, short a sound, kataf kamatz, which is a longer a sound. And finally, we have our chart. And again, we're going to work it backwards. So we have a kuf has 100, nun 50, chet 8, vet 2, gimel 3, tet 9, samek 60, resh 200, shin 300, ayin 70, yod 10, dalet 4. And again, I've repeated the resources. BetHamashiach.com and Do It in Hebrew Dictionary. Invaluable tools when we're studying the word so that we truly know, because often translations use words that it actually doesn't say. They're just words that reflect the idea. But we want to understand the actual words that are spoken, so we use these resources because they're very useful tools. And so we'd like to thank you for joining us again, and we do pray you are blessed through these lessons, because we do believe that Hebrew is Lashon HaKodesh, the holy tongue, and we want to be able to read the original form. So we just pray you are blessed by studying, and we want to wish you a Shavua Tov, a great and blessed week. In Yeshua, our Messiah. Amen.